Greetings. We're so excited to welcome Oakland Symphony's artist in residence, Dr. Daniel Bernard Romain, also known as DBR, to this panel. This discussion provides a deeper look into DBR's composition, Forgiveness, Suite for Spoken Word and Orchestra, which Oakland Symphony performs in their upcoming concert on March 28th, 2025 at Paramount Theater. We've brought together a team of artists and educators to talk about the theme of forgiveness, especially as it relates to the framing of words, music, and ideas. In addition to Dr. Romain, we are fortunate to have with us today the following panelists. Oakland Symphony's new music director, Maestro Kedrick Armstrong, who will be conducting the concert on March 28th, veteran OUSD music teacher and musician Randy Porter, and Oakland Symphony flutist, Alexander Technique coach, and educator Amy Lykar. Dr. Romain, welcome to this panel, and thank you for leading us through this discussion today.
We're going to have a conversation today centered on words, music, and forgiveness, and I am so excited to share these big ideas with our audience, which is you. All right, here we go. You know, this conversation is really about how we're thinking about words and music and ideas and the things that are kind of shaping our choices in terms of the music that we're listening to, the videos that we're watching, the things that we're streaming, the things that we're commenting on, the things that we're tagging and liking and not liking. And I thought it would be really interesting just to kind of examine that a little bit more. You know, my son is 15 years old. He loves music as much as I think, well, I hope as much as he loves me. He might love music a little bit more. But he's constantly listening to music. You know, in one ear he's got his little headphone, and in the other ear he's listening to conversation. And it's kind of miraculous to me how much he has this kind of soundtrack of life that's always going on. And when we talk about music, we often talk about the words, we talk about the artist, we talk about what clothes they're wearing, food they're eating, trends. It's just a very vibrant conversation centered around musical culture. So with that in mind, I'm really curious, Kedrick, what are the words that are holding your attention in this moment?
I love this question because it really forces me to dig deep and reflect on so many of the things that are coming into my sort of ears and worldview right now. Words that come to the top of my mind right now are resilience, community, and beauty. Those are sort of the three that are really holding a lot of space within me at this time. Yeah, resilience, community, and beauty.
Oh, I love that. Resilience, community, and beauty. And Amy, I wonder, what are the words that are holding your attention in this moment, at this time?
So this one came up earlier today, radical acceptance, kindness, civility.
And Randy, what are some of the words that are holding your attention in this moment and at this time?
It's interesting. I go into different spaces and then when I'm in my classroom, it's community. And when I go out into the world and I see and I hear things and I'm thinking, wow, how does my life, how can I stay positive within my community, in spite of some of the things that are going on in the outer community? Anyway.
Oh, I love this.
100%.
Yeah. So, Amy, with this notion of words, as we're continuing this conversation, who's writing the words that you feel you need to read, hear, or see? Are there songs, speeches, poets, particular podcasters even? Who's saying the words that are capturing your attention and maybe even your imagination?
Well, quite honestly, I have to do a shout out to my friend Jennifer Palka, who's Oakland resident and Substacker, and she wrote a book called Recoding America, and she was Obama's chief technology officer. And she is giving what I think is the most reasoned explanation for everything that is going on right now. And so she had an op-ed in the New York Times yesterday or the day before. The think tank she works for just put out a position. I mean, she knows and understands way more than most of the people we're hearing from. So, and she happens to be a friend of mine. So.
Okay, we're going to look out for that, and we're going to get that to everyone watching and listening us today. Randy, who are some of the people who are giving you the words that are giving you life and buoyancy right now?
Well, Heather Cox Richardson is somebody that I read several times a week, and I always listen to Fareed Zakaria. And a word I neglected to say, but which just because of my stream of consciousness and I forgot, but is truth, which and I feel like I'm relying on those people for truth, and also I'm hoping that I can rely on them to make me feel more hopeful and to give me some inspiration as well.
And right now, for everyone watching and listening, try to hang on to some of those words. What are the words that are lingering in your imagination, in your mind right now? You know, resistance, beauty, truth, love, hope, radical acceptance. Ooh, right? Kedrick. Who's saying the words? Who's writing the words? Whose words and by whom?
Yeah, two come to mind. First is, one of America's great writers, James Baldwin, and it's actually a recorded speech of his called "The Struggle of the Artist" or "The Struggle of an Artist" that I found actually on Spotify some years ago. Actually, crazy enough, back in 2016 during the first term of our current president, and it's a 30-minute speech of James Baldwin talking about our responsibilities as an artist and how we wrestle with that and sort of how we show up in political climates and social climates in our sort of day-to-day world, and what our responsibilities are and what our responsibilities aren't as artists, and the struggle of holding those two things. And the other is a hip hop artist by the name of No Name, actually based out of Chicago. And she is an artist that I always think of who speaks truth to power and says a lot of the difficult things, also holding us fellow artists to the fire and sort of how we show up and interact with our modern day political and social climates. And so they are artists and writers that I continually go back to time and time again, and I'm always sort of rereading and re-listening to their works because there's always something new to gain from it.
And what a perfect segue, because I'm curious as to which musical artist you're listening to right now, Kedrick. Who's got your ear? Now that we've talked about who's maybe's got your mind and your heart, who's got your ear?
Yeah, staying in sort of the hip hop lane, Doechii, who just won the Grammy this past year for Best Hip Hop Album. I bought the vinyl. I've been playing it nonstop. But other artists like Tank and the Bangas, who also, speaking of words and vibes, just won the Grammy for Best Spoken Word Album this past year, and their poetry album that they put together. But also sort of going back, I really love this idea of resistance, going back to sort of the music of Black resistance, Marvin Gaye, Nina Simone, really thinking about all of these artists who were activists and artists in their own right. And I think for me, I find so much strength and power in following the connection from our ancestors like Nina Simone and Marvin Gaye to the people who are currently doing that work like Tank and the Bangas and Doechii.
Oh, wow. Well, that makes you the hippest music director and conductor in the world, right? You would be hard-pressed to find another maestro who can name Doechii and No Name off the bat. Just wanted to put that out there. Talk about art as resistance and enveloping and welcoming culture. Amy, I'm so curious. Which artists are you listening to? And those flutes, by the way, I don't want to make mention of that. If you want to talk a little bit about your relationship to your instrument, I think that would be so amazing as well.
So that's interesting because the music that I'm listening to, a lot of the music that I'm listening to is what I need to be learning and performing in the upcoming months. So in the next couple of weeks, I'm playing a Mexican-Cuban folk mass that has boleros and rancheros in it, and it's by Juan Ramirez, who's a violinist in the Atlanta Symphony. But this is actually going to be the Mexican premiere of his work here in San Miguel de Allende. And so I've been listening to his other compositions and Mexican boleros and rancheros to just sort of get into the form of that music. And then next on the docket is I'm playing a piccolo concerto that I premiered with the Oakland Symphony that was written for me. And I'm playing it again after, the pandemic hiatus. And I'm kind of relearning it the way I learn music now, which is all about color and character and the emotion that is meant to be evoked rather than just the notes or just the rhythms, but how a relationship to time and how rhythm serves color, character, and emotion.
Wow. Love it. Love it. Well, that's really important, and I think that that's all part of this journey that the musicians of the Oakland Symphony really represent. An incredible diversity of people, ideas, cultures, thoughts, and journey. And with that, Randy, what musical artists are you listening to? I noticed Bob Marley hanging proudly there in your presumably in your classroom. I'm thinking of Redemption Song. I'm thinking of so many Bob Marley songs that are so uplifting. But Randy, who's got your ear right now?
There's always so many people that have my ear, but in this time and on this theme, there's one album that I've been listening to over and over again, and it's by, I don't know if you know about John Daversa. He is a trumpet player, a great jazz musician. He runs the jazz department at the University of Miami. He actually won a Grammy for this record. It's called American Dreamers, Voices of Hope, Music of Freedom. And you have to listen to this music. It has the Stars and Stripes Forever on it, but it has the Stars and Stripes Forever in a very similar way to how Samuel L. Jackson portrayed himself as Uncle Sam. Okay, so there's a lot of satire, and it's clearly pretty subversive, and it's virtuosic as well. There's also it's a great jazz record. There's many interviews of folks who are part of DACA, who are the Dreamers, and most of them are musicians, and they talk about who they are, and we realize, wow, these are just these are folks like us, and then it goes into this amazing piece of music, and it's a great. So anyway, I listen to this, and it's really comforting, and also along those lines, there's another record that I've been listening to, which I go back to over and over again. I don't listen to it for 7 or 8 years, and then I come back to it, and it's an album by Charlie Hayden and the New Liberation Orchestra. And it's they made 3 records, but the one, Ballad of the Fallen, arrangements by Carla Bley. Again, it's an unbelievably beautiful record that every time I listen to it, I hear more things, and I've probably listened to it 100 plus times. I've arranged about half of it for my school bands as well. It's really special music. And if you would have asked me this question on Saturday or before, I wouldn't come up with this. But we have Maestro Kendrick Armstrong, but I've now listened to Kendrick Lamar. I've listened to that halftime show several times. It's so fascinating and also inspiring for me as well.
I'm so glad you're mentioning this, Randy, and actually watching these artists as well as listening to them and taking in their words, an abundance, a richness of words. Because I've been thinking a lot about what does forgiveness sound like? You know, there's no right or wrong answer here for anyone. This is for all of us. What does forgiveness sound like? I know that for me, oftentimes it sounds like an adagio. For me, forgiveness is slow. It's encompassing. Amy, I'm thinking about the flute choir in Charles Ives' Unanswered Question. You know, Kedrick, I'm thinking about how you might conduct Samuel Barber's Adagio for strings, or maybe Barber's Knoxville Summer. You know, Randy, I'm thinking about how you might lead a transcription of one of your pieces, or just as you said, when the door closes and the conversations you're having with a classroom full of young people who have big, bold, old ideas in some ways, right? So I'm thinking about the sound of forgiveness, you know, and that is a kind of meditation that I'm holding close to my heart right now, and that kind of binds everything together. And no offense to my good friend Marc, or I know we talked a lot about words tonight, but sometimes for me, words can maybe kind of get in the way because they're so precise and they're so specific. So for each of you, no right or wrong answer. What is the sound of forgiveness? For me, I would say it's the slow movement of Beethoven's Third Symphony. It's any ballad by Bob Dylan or Joan Baez. Tracy Chapman. I know that she had the one hit, but she had so many hits. But there's a particular song that she has on her first album called "Baby, Can I Hold You?" And I think the lyric is something like, "Baby, can I hold you tonight? Maybe if I told you the right words at the right time, you'd be mine." I know I just talked about the absence of words, but now I'm thinking about Tracy Chapman, and what a great lyric, right? Young person in her 20s. Guitar, a microphone, great studio, and she's writing this kind of music. Go check it out, Tracy Chapman, "Baby, Can I Hold You?" But for you, Kedrick, what is the sound of forgiveness?
Gosh, so the first like non-musical thing, or sort of non-directly musical thing that I thought about is laughter. Forgiveness sounds like laughter, but musically, I thought of the Adagietto from Mahler's Fifth Symphony. But also I kept thinking about fugues. Like, there's something about the working out of forgiveness versus both internally and in community with people, like thinking of any of the great Bach fugues, the Dona Nobis Pacem from the B minor Mass, or any movement from the B minor Mass, any of the great fugues that sort of, there's an idea of forgiveness, but it can look so many different ways, and how it intersects and how different people interpret it, and how it has to be sort of balanced both internally and in community. Yeah, so either the Mahler Adagietto or any of the great fugues by Bach are sort of the things that come to mind.
I love that. What a great, incredible response. I'm going to hold on to that, by the way. I think a fugue is a democratic idea as much as it's a musical one, isn't it? What a great conversation, right? And it resolves, and there's agreement, and there's even, conflict in the working out of disagreement, but it resolves and it finds itself. Amy, what is the sound of forgiveness for you?
The first musical work that came to my mind was one that I played earlier this year which was which is actually a piece that's supposed to be on love. It's Jake Heggie's Deepest Desire, 4 meditations on love. But the 4th movement is called Primary Colors. And this work is text by Sister Helen Prejean, who the movie and the book and the opera Dead Man Walking is all based on. But the text of the 4th movement, Primary Colors, she says, I live my life in primary colors. I let praise or blame fall where they may. I hold my soul in equanimity and leave the fruits of my labors to God. And at night when I pray, I catch on fire. And when I put my head on the pillow, I fall instantly to sleep. And for me, that kind of epitomizes forgiveness in many different ways.
That is such a great reminder. I do think that, for anyone watching this, I do think that the performing arts, going to the opera house or the concert hall or the jazz club, putting on your headphones, I do think that this is a time for the arts, and a time where the arts can be resistance, but also remedy, right? The arts can be with us in battle, but also a balm, right? And the arts can really speak with us, or sometimes even for us. And I think that's such a great example, Amy, of an incredible libretto, a really important American opera, and an incredible set of performances each time it's done, as a reminder of, for all of us, maybe there is a time for forgiveness. And thinking about Marc's question, what does it mean to forgive the wrong people, or rather, what happens if we forgive the wrong people? I don't know, and maybe that's part of the design of the question, right? And I think that's maybe part of the design of our conversation, that we can talk about things, have questions, and sometimes not having the answer gives us more hope and possibility for the future, and answers that may never come, and that's okay. I want to thank you so much for being with us today and taking this time today. I am so proud to be a very small part of the work, the historic work and the future work of the Oakland Symphony. I am so excited to be collaborating with my friend, Maestro Kedrick Armstrong, and my friend Amy Likar in what will be the premiere, the Oakland Symphony premiere of my piece, Forgiveness, for spoken word and orchestra, March 28 at the Paramount Theater at 8 p.m. Kedrick, could you tell us what else will be on the program?
Yes, also on that program, we will open the concert with a piece by Gabriela Nina Frank, her 3 Latin American dances for orchestra, which we will be joined by members of our youth orchestra in a side-by-side performance. And then we will close the concert with a masterpiece, the incredible Pictures at an Exhibition, written by Mussorgsky, orchestrated by Ravel. It's going to be an absolutely amazing concert.
March 28, Paramount Theater, 8 p.m. Please join us for Music and Magic with your Oakland Symphony.